Welcome to the MAD podcast. We're talking mergers, acquisitions, and deals. And today's guest is Daniel Beaumont. Now, Daniel previously took over the family business in the textile sector. And in this video, you will see that he moves on to purchasing two manufacturing businesses. And he explains how he sources, structures, and closes the deals. So I'm sure you'll find this really fascinating and you'll get a lot of value from it. So please don't forget to subscribe below. Hit that subscribe button and you'll get the latest videos as they are released. And don't forget, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you need any help, support with your mergers, acquisitions, and deals. I'll speak to you soon. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MAD podcast. We are talking mergers, acquisitions, and deals. And I'm very pleased to say my guest today is Daniel Beaumont. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, Sean.
Well, thanks for joining us, Daniel. And for the benefit of our audience, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself and just let us know a little bit about your background, please?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career as a chartered accountant, and then not long after qualifying, I took over running our family textile business in Lancashire. And then we sold that about 4 years ago, and I had to run it for 3 years post-sale. And in the sort of that 3-year period, sort of planned my life after what had been my life for the previous 8 years, I guess, and wanted to get into buying and selling businesses. I left in January 2020, and now I bought 2 businesses since then, and I spend my time sort of overseeing those as well as looking for the next deal and speaking to business owners who are looking to exit.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. That's fantastic. And so you've looked to acquire a couple of businesses, and so perhaps you could just introduce the first one for us.
So the first one I acquired was a tool making business in Yorkshire. So engineering, quite sort of niche, high quality technical bits of kit they make, which was a deal we completed in August last year through all done via Zoom through lockdown 1.
Okay, cool. So how did you source and structure that deal, if you don't mind sharing that?
So sourcing was through, I wrote a load of letters, would have been April time last year. I was looking for a manufacturing business because I thought with Brexit and with sort of COVID, there's probably going to be a lot more onshoring of manufacturing, especially of high-end quality manufacturing, not low-end where you'll get outcompeted by China, for example. So I wrote to a few hundred manufacturing businesses in the northwest of England where I was looking, and one landed on the desk of a business that was, well, it was owned by a parent company based in the northwest, even though this business was over in Yorkshire. So they responded to my letter, and we struck up a conversation from there. So that was the business owned the property it was in. So we agreed a price for the business and the property together, and I pulled a deal together whereby we paid for the property on day one, with the deferred element being for the business that was deferred over a number of years.
Okay, how many years, do you mind me asking?
4 years.
Okay, and did that take some negotiation, or did they agree that proposal right off the bat? I mean, how can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so actually agreeing the deal structure was quite simple because it was bought from a group who were looking to divest it, and this group do what I do on a bigger scale now. So they are in the M&A world, so they know how it works, and they structure deals like that themselves.
Okay.
So they were open to that structure, and because it wasn't in the location I was looking for, the exact type of business I was looking for, I sort of would only go ahead with it if that structure worked for them and was accepted. So I said, okay, we can do it if we do it this way. And they said, yep, that's fine. And then I went about and found a property investor to buy the premises. So on completion, we did a sort of instantaneous sale and lease back of the premises, which funded the initial consideration with the, and then in theory, the business should then pay for the deferred out of operating cash flows.
Yeah, it's a great way if they've got those kind of assets. Just leverage those assets, and it gets you started. So it's good that they're familiar with the M&A kind of deal structuring, because it kind of made your job easier, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they were comfortable with what risks they were willing to accept and what was important and what wasn't in a deal. And I guess psychologically, being a group, I was dealing with the FD. It's not somebody's baby that they built from scratch, where there's a lot of emotional attachment. It's not something that's funding their pension, as it were, or funding their retirement. So it was sort of all the complex issues were solved quite quickly with a conversation, rather than having to go back and forth through solicitors and not understanding what these terms of a SPA meant, and putting the fear into you, as solicitors can do from time to time.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that this is a sector that you don't, am I right in saying, the tool manufacturing, you don't really have any prior knowledge. Was that a concern for you or not?
Not a concern, because I knew what I didn't know, if that makes sense. I knew when I set out on this new sort of career that I'd have to get into a business or a sector that I had no prior knowledge of, because I had a non-compete clause after moving out of the textile industry. But with my background in accountancy, every month there we were a new client in a new sector. So I've been trained to get up to speed quickly with business models, understanding how the numbers work, and understanding how commercially sort of what the sales cycle is, understanding how to do commercial due diligence yourself. So I knew whatever I was getting into, it'd be something new and a challenge, and so I was prepared to go through that. And I was of the view that, well, if it's a profitable business as it is now, then let's, you've got to start somewhere, so let's go for it. And it was de-risked to an effect because it was sold from a group. The management team were all still in place.
Yeah.
So it's not like the owner, who was the main salesperson, was leaving.
Yeah, and that's really important, that you bring in the knowledge with you. So do they run the business on a day-to-day basis?
They run it on a day-to-day basis. What I've done, I took a look at it and realised there was no marketing activity going on in the business at all. There was the website was, I think, at least 8 years old. No LinkedIn activity. And because it's quite niche, you could probably focus quite quickly on your sort of target audience through LinkedIn. So we did a new website, brought PR in place, really focusing on who the buyers are in that market. So we had sort of start of the year, we got off to a flying start, really, in terms of the number of projects for us to quote on. So we had a really good start to the year in that sense. So it's nice to have proved that I could add value in that sense.
That's brilliant. Yeah. If you've got a small niche business and a small niche market, should I say, you can really finely tune your targeting, can't you? Which saves on cost and time and energy. And, sounds good. I love the fact that you had an accountancy background, because having that skill set is really can be a real added benefit, can't it? When you're looking at all these numbers.
yeah, you know where which closets to look in to find some skeletons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And looking at a set of accounts, you can know what the key drivers of the business are and where, and also looking to structure a deal, what can be leveraged and what can't, and where the what the cash requirements are going to be.
yeah, yeah. Are you able to give us a sense of how much value you've added to this business whilst you've been there? With that, I appreciate some of it may be confidential, but did you give us a sense of how much value you've added or not?
It's probably too early to say in terms of quantifying it, and I wouldn't like to take too much credit. There are some very skilled engineers there who actually produce the tools. All I'm trying to do is get more coming in through the sales funnel.
Yeah, which is obviously
and managing cash flow. And where we need to invest, how we can either fund that or finance that.
Yeah, okay. And so that was your first acquisition, and your second one?
The second one was a compression molding business up in the northeast. So plastic compression molding, again another niche manufacturing business. This was a retirement sale, and again it owned the premises. So it was exactly the same deal structure. So we paid for the premises on day one, with the balance of the business deferred over 4 years. But this time, I acquired the premises myself through funds I'd generated through the previous sale, and leveraging the first assets in the first business to pay that initial consideration. But before we did the deal, I already had a sort of offer for a commercial mortgage on that anyway. So I'll be able to get my personal investment out pretty quickly out of that one. Now that one was a retirement sale. So the managing director was leaving. So I went through a full recruitment process. And upon day one completion, the person I recruited started working in that business, who runs it as a general manager, who runs the business on a day-to-day basis for me.
That's fantastic. You've managed. Was it easy to find someone? Because that's quite a niche, as you said. It's a niche business. Someone that had experience, I guess.
I used a recruitment company.
Yeah.
To do that process on and I would only pay them if the deal went through. So it was de-risk for me on that sense, but also using a professional people who are experienced in recruiting the right people for that business. And whether it's through their skill or luck, I found someone who lived locally to the business, wasn't currently working due to sort of the COVID situation, so was available straight away, and had great CV, great experience of not in that specific niche sector, but in sort of manufacturing. So found a great candidate there, and we got a good rapport going. So that's going well in terms of that integration and handover.
Yeah, that's great. So did you say how you sourced the deal or not, Daniel?
I didn't say, no. This one, I think I received an email off a broker for this one, actually. I normally don't try not to deal with brokers, but it was one of these sites where it lists the business and lists the price. So it sounded quite good. I'd look at it. You can go on Company's House and look at the accounts, and thought, well, actually what they're asking is fairly reasonable. So got in touch with the broker and said I'd like to have an initial phone call with the sellers. So we had a couple of phone calls and a face-to-face meeting, built a good rapport, and managed to get the figure that sort of they're asking for. I said, okay, we can do that if we structure the deal this way. And they accepted that, and then yes, that deal completed in April this year.
Okay, that's fantastic. So two deals in a relatively short space of time, which is good. And you seem to be focused on manufacturing. That's more out of just the way it is, that rather than something you specifically, have you particularly focused on that as a sector?
I initially focused on manufacturing in general. One, I think I previously mentioned, because I think there's going to be more focus back on UK manufacturing going forward, but also manufacturing businesses have lots of assets. So if you're looking to do a leverage buyout, for example, there are tangible assets which can be financed, and a lot of them, if they're set up by sort of baby boomers and they've grown the business, a lot of them own the premises that they're in. Yeah. So there's more scope for getting a deal done with those types of businesses. But that was sort of just a starting point. I am fairly sector agnostic. So manufacturing businesses are good, but they have their own challenges as well. That's why we'll look at other opportunities now. So we signed heads a couple of weeks ago on a wholesale business, which, whilst I don't have experience the actual products are selling, the business model is very similar to the textile business, which I ran for 8 or so years before selling.
Okay. And so you've become sector agnostic. What's the way forward for you then? What are the plans for the future for your company? I guess it's acquiring more businesses from any sector, is that right?
Yeah, I'd like to have a portfolio of around 5 that operate independently of each other in different sectors, and that's to spread my risk, because one sector could change or collapse, and to spread my commercial interest as well. But within those 5 businesses, we'll follow a specific growth strategy with each of them. That might be organic growth in one, or looking at strategic acquisitions to grow those businesses quickly.
Okay, brilliant. Well, it sounds really good what your plans are. So there's going to be people that are looking to get started in mergers and acquisitions. Is there any kind of advice or guidance that you'd share with them based on your experience?
I think the best way of learning is by doing. So just get started speaking to business owners and trying to structure deals, because you know that you'll fail more times than you succeed, but each failure is a learning opportunity. So I've had a few deals where we've reached heads and got so far down the line, and they've collapsed, and that's helped me now structure deals or structure agreements through what I learned on the previous ones, to getting things done, and building relationships with if you're looking to do leverage buyouts, start building relationships with brokers, for example, and talk through deal structures with them. So when the right deal does come along, you know which strings to pull to get the deal done.
Yeah, sure. That's really valuable. Building your network, building those relationships is really crucial. Okay, so are you looking for partners in the future, joint ventures? What kind of things would you be looking for now, Daniel, from from people that are listening to this? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I'd be keen to speak to people to do like a buy and build strategy with, probably someone who owns a business and has that sector knowledge, and perhaps doesn't want to go down the M&A route themselves, or don't feel like they can do it themselves. We could partner up and looking at bringing lots of small businesses together into a group. I think that's a great way of getting fast growth. But to do that with, say, lots of small businesses, I would need that sector expertise, which I don't have personally, or don't have the time to work full time in one business.
Yeah.
Or if someone's looking for some investment, not necessarily money, but in terms of my experience, or got a specific problem they need solving, I'm quite keen in taking sort of minority stakes in business and adding value. I think I've probably made most of the mistakes there are to be made in business, and have learned from those, and would keen to add value into businesses in return, sort of some kind of shareholding, and look for an exit in the sort of short to medium future.
Yeah, yeah. I think for business owners listening, that adds so much value if you're taking a minority stake and sharing your knowledge and expertise, and that can be in any sector, right?
In any sector, and having been through the sale process myself with my business, and now speaking to private equity companies, for example, in terms of trying to get my deal flow in, but it's I'm much better equipped now, having been through the process and had these conversations, to sell a business than I would have been sort of 5 years ago when I hadn't done it before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Your experience is very current. Okay, well, thank you, Daniel. It's been great having you on the MAD podcast. And if people want to get hold of you, how would they do that? What's the best way?
Best way is LinkedIn. So Daniel Beaumont. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. I check my sort of in-mail fairly regularly. So yeah, drop me a message.
Well, it's been brilliant having you on, and I really appreciate it. And thanks again.
Thanks, Sean.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Daniel Beaumont. Don't forget to subscribe below, and you'll get the latest podcast interviews as they are released. And remember, if you need help with your mergers, acquisitions and deals, then please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll speak to you on the very next episode of the MAD podcast. Bye for now. Stay safe and be kind to each other.